All right, this is Miami 2, episode 6, I think. Either 6 or 7. But this is this is the halfway point. So, whatever episode that is. So, this episode starts off with the men meeting with Tommy, and he was talking about how he heard about how the after party went. I'm like, did something happen? I mean, we saw them having a good old time dancing, but it wasn't like drama went on that we saw. But he tells them that he wants them to really focus on the connections that they have. Like, pretty much telling the guys that you're no longer just kind of looking around, dating around. Like, now you need to start actually honing in, focusing on who you're feeling. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's the time is now. That's what I said before. But he didn't say, okay, y'all have the power this week. You know, the men, y'all have the power to eliminate. He just let them know, this is what you need to do. But also, we're having a group dinner later. See y'all then. And throughout this episode, Tony and Lyndon both mentioned that and how it kind of it sends a little bit of a nerve down their spine because they're like, he didn't say. And I don't know how to feel about that. And my thing is, if you're so concerned about who has the power this week, it almost shows your true color or true intention for why you're here, which is, to be on the show, make sure you have all the numbers, because it's really has seemed like Tony and Lyndon, out of all the guys, have been the most concerned with their numbers and their connections more than anyone else. It's like they really want to have all their numbers stacked. So the fact that they're the two that mention about that is interesting to me. But I will be devil's advocate with this, because at the same time, if you know that, I'm a lady, okay? So if I know that us women have the power to send someone home, I'm going to look at the guys a little bit differently than if I didn't have the power. Because I know that I'm going to, as a group, we're going to send someone home. But I want to make sure I'm really looking at these guys, because I don't want to send the wrong one home. But I'm not going to act like that's where they're at, because to me, it's more so you're scared, because we have seen plenty of times that a lot of people, especially the men, pipe up more when they know that they have the power versus when they don't have the power. I think we saw that a lot with Demetrius when they were in DC, either DC or Potomac, one of those areas up north, east, whatever. He was saying that people were noticing that when the women have the power, he pipes up more. When the men have the power, he's more like cool, calm, collect. It's like a different energy. So, you showing your true colors, Tony and Lyndon. So anyway, we have our first group date of the episode, and this is a pretty big group date. I feel like this season in particular, all the group dates that we have seen have been just 4 people, like 2 guys, 2 girls. But this one had 3 guys and 3 girls. So we had Blake, Anthony, and Lyndon, and then Mercedes, Cynthia, and Suanne. And I have to say, like, to me, this was like a pretty cool, it looked like they had a really good time. There wasn't all this like kind of awkward talking, at least not from the beginning. Y'all, I hope you noticed that Lyndon's shorts got shorter each date. It was weird. So they had a group like obstacle course date. And I don't know where them water guns came from, because everyone looked like they came in empty-handed when they showed up to the field. And look, Blake is really showing that he really do security, because he did not, I mean, at first, when he talked about it, he was not really feeling the fun with the water gun. He was like, what's going on? This ain't part of the game. But then he was like, well, I mean, this was fun. But I'm like, okay, Blake, loosen up. Loosen up. It's okay. So after they have their group fun, they go break off into their own like private conversations. And I don't know if y'all noticed this, but everyone talked to at least two people except for Blake. Blake did not talk to he didn't talk to Cynthia or Mercedes. He only talked to Sue, and everyone else talked to someone else. And, well, I take that back. I don't think Anthony talked to Sue. I don't think he did. Not here, not at this group date. But anyway, but Mercedes, Lyndon, and Sue, they spoke with more than one person. And seeing Anthony and Mercedes talk, I appreciated her honesty with him about why, like, not why, but how she really feels about him. Because she said, look, I like you, but what I feel like you need as a woman intimidates me. Basically, she's letting him know what you need is not what I can provide. And I'm not mad about what you need. I'm not mad about where you are in your life, but we're not at the same level. And then Anthony was also, it was kind of like he understood that, like he's not disagreeing with her, but he's also saying to her, well, don't act like you can't get there, or I can't help you get there. I just found it interesting that she does seem to be a little bit hesitant with the idea of becoming like a stepmom, essentially, because she didn't mention about him having a daughter. But let's take it back to that first episode when they all met. She said she was ready to play stepmama. Look what happens when you start talking about things you're not serious about. I know that's like a gold star for people with kids when you say, especially as a person who doesn't have kids, that you're ready for that. But you have to be honest about that. Like, I can honestly say I don't want to date someone with kids. My boyfriend has no kids, and I'm glad about that. But I'm not going to lie and tell someone that I'm ready to be a stepmom, because I'm not. So, but I did appreciate the way that they spoke. And they had this respectful mutual understanding that this connection really isn't going to go anywhere. And when she broke that down, it was that feeling of, you know what, I get you. So the next setting we see is between Sue-Ann and Lyndon. I gotta say, I do not like Lyndon. I do not. He, to me, is the most childish guy there. I don't really get Morgan and her attraction with him, because he's showing to me that he just is not serious about the process. I mean, Sue is the second person who has said, you haven't texted me back. First it was Marcia, then it was, now it's Sue. And he's someone who laughs things off, who doesn't, take it serious. He's always laughing, and it's really annoying. Like, you not texting or calling me and you have my number is annoying. And then you'll have the audacity to ask me about it, and then want to play basically stupid when it's done to you. Like, that was annoying. And I think he's like an awkward kind of guy. Like, I just don't like Lyndon. I really don't. So him and Sue don't have anything. Then we see him talk to Mercedes. And again, that same just weird awkwardness, asking her if she likes him. And she's like, listen, I've never seen someone so befuddled by a question. I don't even know if that's the word. She just was like, say, huh? do I like you? She was like, and I mean, she said that she gets friendship vibes from him. I would have just told him no, and that's it, because no, I don't like you. No, I'm not going to like you. We're not going to have anything. So I'm like, well, dang, you got rejected twice. So then we see Sue and Blake talking, and I mean, honestly, I think Sue is the most annoying female here, next to Jeffrey and maybe Marcia. But I cringe when Sue is talking, because she just sounds uninterested to me, and almost like she's faking for TV in a way. But I mean, her and Blake, they have a kiss. She sat on his lap. Then he picked her up. That was the second guy to pick her up, like a piggyback ride. Because first it was Lyndon, and then it was him. So, okay. I found it interesting that we didn't see Blake and Cynthia talking. And while the other two people, not two people, while the other two sets of people were talking, we didn't see Cynthia and Blake talk. And I think it could have made sense to see them talk, since she was the one to tell him that, you are ready to love, but this is like our concern. Because it would have been interesting to see if he would have if she would have talked to him about how's he feeling, have you really taken to heart what I told you? But we didn't get that. So then we see, so the next date that we see going on is, I have to remember right now, because right now I'm just like, I don't remember. Oh, I think it was Tony and Marcia. But you know what? At this point, I know who was with who. Do I know the order? No. It was Jeffrey and Blue. And Jeffrey looked like she just woke up. Blue looks uninterested to be there. But here we are. And I did find it interesting that this episode, there seemed to be a lot of, like, the word aggressive being used. But it was used essentially in the way that I want you to let me know that you want me, and then do something about it. Because we heard it from a lot of people this episode. So I found that interesting, that that's where they all were thinking, was, I need you to be more aggressive, or this person is aggressive and you are not. Because we had Jeffrey tell Blue that. We had Morgan tell Lyndon that. We had Tony tell Marcia that, especially with him comparing Marcia and Morgan. And I think that was it. But that's still a lot of people to be saying the same thing. And I mean, the date between Jeffrey and Blue seemed fine. I'm not mad at him thinking that let me see here on an individual setting, but here we are. I will say, like, Jeffrey is weird. Okay, I'm just gonna verge off a little bit. Jeffrey is weird when it comes to her quote unquote connections with these guys, because she bounces back and forth. I think she has claimed to have a connection with half of the guys at some point. The only guys that she hasn't publicly stated that she's interested or has piqued an interest is Blake, obviously, maybe Lyndon, and Fabrice. But she has put her foot down about Mark Anthony, about Blue now, about Andre, Demario. And I'm like, girl. And none of them seem to be like solids. Like, I don't see it. You bounce around without giving one at least a teeny bit of attention. Like, we haven't seen her and Mark Anthony go on a date. And I'm like, But we haven't seen Mark Anthony and Mercedes go on a date either, not since like a few episodes ago. But I think the promo for next week they do. But, I mean, that's still, 3, 4 episodes later? But anyway, whose date am I talking about? I don't remember. So, oh yeah, Jeffrey and Blue. I mean, it was a nothing date. They always have at least one where you just don't really remember what was going on, what was said. But at the end of the day, it was a decent date. If they had the men's lounge or the women's lounge, they would both say each other and keep it moving. So then we get to, okay, now I don't remember who came first. It was, or they might have been doing it together, like going back to back. But we do see Tony and Marcia, and then we see Lyndon and Morgan. And like I said, both of these people, both of these dates mention about coming harder, like be aggressive. I don't even know why they said aggressive. They really just should have said be assertive about how you're feeling with me and then move like that. Like, I'm tired of you just kind of like sitting wayside. And to me, Lyndon has that lazy vibe. Like, yes, we saw him going to the women this episode to kind of see who was feeling him. But I feel like in general, we have seen him just simply be lazy with his approach. Like, he's not calling people. He's not going on individual dates until this episode. And he's obviously not communicating his feelings. So pipe up, dude. But Morgan looked really pretty this episode. And she looked gorgeous in her green dress that she did for her like little interview thing. I was like, okay, Miss Bratz doll, Miss Sasha, the Bratz Sasha. That's who she looks like. If they did a Bratz version of Mama's adult, she would be Sasha. Anyway, I mean, their dates seemed to be decent. There was a lot of laughs, a lot of smiles, a lot of short shorts from Mr. Lyndon and his little chicken legs. But Morgan said that she feels more like she can open up more with Lyndon. And I could see that because there was a lot of laughs. There was a lot of smiles and laughs. Whereas her last day, there was this like sexual, sensual vibe. And to me, like, as much as she tries to blow smoke up Lyndon, I just see him being like a friend that she has a good time with. But that's not her man. Like, he ain't a man. And I'm mad that she lied and said that you look like a real man, because no, he does not. That nappy, stringy hair. But that's her little baby truth. Do I believe it? No. To me, she's a numbers girl. Okay? No, I don't want to say numbers girl. That's Jeffrey. She likes to play. She's very much can play that game, because she knows, she can tell what kind of man Tony is, okay? And he shows it all the time, but he thinks a lot of himself, and she's the one to knock him down by going after the shrimpiest guy. And he's the easiest guy. He's the easiest guy to more or less manipulate and make him think that he's got it going on, and that's not the case. But she knows that Tony has other connections, so she just wants to use the easiest guy to show that I do too. Because she always mentions him, and it's like, okay, he doesn't mention Marcia to you the way you mention Lyndon to him. And then speaking of Marcia, him and Marcia had a date. And I gotta say, he always talks about Morgan and Marcia, but he don't ever talk about Joe, despite the fact that he has brought it up a couple of times, like in the men's lounge and, of course, in his interview. But I don't know. It's almost like, is he embarrassed of her? Like, he just doesn't mention her. And the fact that to Marcia, when she was asking him about who is he really here for or feeling, and he said, you and Morgan, I was like, well, where's Jonique? Where's her name? Because now, when you had your double date with her a little bit later in this episode, you was just like, whoa, okay, Joe. But you were saying that with her when y'all were on the boat. So I don't understand. Like, what's the problem with Joe? Like, why can't you mention Joe, but you can mention Morgan or Marcia? But anyway. I don't think he is feeling Marcia seriously at all. I don't. So, um, so then we get to the last date, which is with Joe, Mark Anthony, Tony, and Jeffrey. And I was like, okay, good, because we haven't seen Mark Anthony on a one-on-one in a minute, so, or just a date in general. So yeah, let's see him again. I am surprised that he didn't just bring Jeffrey just alone, but maybe he wasn't able to because they're like, we need Joe here too. And I mean, their whole date seemed to go really good. And Jonique, she got a lot of sunshine, which I was surprised because usually Jeffrey does all the talking in settings. So the fact that Joe was able to have a good input in the conversation was really good. I don't know. I didn't understand this almost dislike towards Mark Anthony that Joe seemed to just suddenly have against him. I mean, help me out, but I didn't get it. It seemed out of nowhere. So then we get to the group dinner date, and I told y'all Anthony was coming back because yet again, they spoiled it in the promo for the season because we see that there's a scene between him and some woman, I don't know who, that he pipes up with. And then I think the argument between Lyndon and Tony, which was a group thing, I think he jumped in too. So I'm like, well, duh, he's coming back. There's something weird about that. Like, why? I don't know if production did it on purpose just to kind of spice it up because it's one thing to say that he has COVID and he'll join us when he's better versus he has COVID and he's quitting. It's like, wait, why would you quit? It's not that serious like it used to. Okay. So I don't know. It was something weird. But when when Tommy was asked saying that, he's feeling good and he wants to come back, he was like, y'all have a problem with that? Some of the men look perturbed, like they didn't want him to come back, and I thought that was kind of funny to me that they seemed very upset that he might be coming back. Because I think it was Tony that really made a face, and none of Tony's connections were Andre's connections. But whatever. It didn't matter if they were going to say no because he is coming back, and he was in the back corner. I will say this was the most personality we saw of Blake because he actually got up and, gave him that brotherly clap, hug and all that. I was like, okay, Blake is good. Just glad to see his brother back. Cool. So during their moment of just letting it all out, I saw a contrast with the women about the men that they were not feeling, because this was not the time to talk about who they were feeling. This was the time to really talk about who you're not feeling. And there was this huge interest in Anthony last women's lounge, and now they're all saying, I'm not seeing it. I'm like, what changed? Of course, there's the whole thing between Blake and Jeffrey that gets brought up. And that's kind of where we're, ending this episode on. Again, this is another cliffhanger episode. We are told that there is one man and one woman that is being sent home. And I want to use my detective clues because we know that Morgan and Blake have a one-on-one where she confronts him and basically is being very rude to him. We also know that there's going to be this maybe brunch or some type of lunch setting where we do see Tony confront Lyndon about his connection with Morgan. We see Mercedes and Mark Anthony. They have a date and they're kissing next episode. So I feel like, well, who have we seen the least? because Sue also did not get a lot of high praise either. She kind of got the least amount of interest. So I could see the man being Anthony, because like I said, we saw pretty much all the other men in different settings for the promos. So, and I don't think we saw Anthony. So I feel like the man going home might be Anthony. And then the woman going home, I think, is between, again, Jonique and Marcia. So that was this episode. I had to rewatch it because there was so much going on. Oh, it was a lot going on. But y'all let me know, who do you think is going to be the man and woman that goes home? Or what if they're pulling our leg, and what if it doesn't happen right at the end of this like group dinner? Maybe it does actually happen at the end of the episode, and that's where we see Morgan confronting Blake. Like maybe they do have that lunch setting that we see the fight between Lyndon and Tony go on after the dinner. Then there's the eliminations, because as far as I know, Blake's time is coming. And I don't see Sue staying, nor do I really see Marcia and what is her name? Marcia. So that was it.